If you have any questions, you can write them down. I think I'll answer at the end of the lecture or the seminars. So let's start today the lecture about international consulting. I'll start sharing the screen. Sharing the screen. One sec. One sec. Yeah, that's it. And if you can see the presentation, please put down 7th in the chat so I could identify that it's about the presentation. If I'll see 7th in the chat, it will mean that you see it. It's okay because Microsoft Teams is new to me, so I'm rather uncertain with this instrument. Yeah, okay, I see 7th. Thank you. Artem, Yegor, thank you. So, Danila, Grigory, yeah. Glad to see you, Victoria. Okay, so let's start. And the first point will be about the types of consultants. So at previous lecture, we found out what the consulting is and what's the history, the long history of consulting, more than 100 years from Taylor to nowadays consultants, plenty of companies, and what is the variety of consulting projects and particular consultants. So in other words, who you can be in the consulting world if you want to dive into. So there are plenty of types of consultants, and I think it's not all the variants, especially if you are working peer-to-peer with people. You can be a consultant on a lot of topics, practically. You can be consultant on pets, dogs, cats, and so on. You can be a consultant on dietology, on astrology, and a lot of other topics if you go peer-to-peer. And in this presentation, there will be almost business-to-business consulting. What are the types of it, and what is the variety of professions you can have. So let's start. And the consultancy industry, it is very diverse market. So there are a lot of possibilities here. And no matter what profession, what education do you have. So also, because being a consultant is not a protected title, as we saw at previous lecture, so anyone can title themselves strategy management consultant or business consultant, finance consultant, or HR consultant. Basically, you can. But after that, you have some responsibility to the client, so that's okay. And there is a variety of workplaces consultant can access, and basically through consulting you can go to the industry. So there are a lot of going from consulting to industry, from industry to consulting, and consulting is like a shift, like an upstairs, like an elevator for you. And here, as you remember, you can be an independent consultant or a consultant beside the firm, the consulting firm, the consulting company. And one sec. Over the past few decades, the branch on specific associations and analysts have developed different definitions in order to categorize different types of consultants. And there will be one one of the type of these categorizations, and let's start. So the first is strategy consultant. As we told, for example, McKinsey, Bain, BCG, their core is strategic consultant, and basically it is the main part of each firm. So each firm should know where it go, why, what resources it should have for to be profitable and to be alive in this market, especially in crisis. So the term strategy consultant is used to describe consultants who operate at the highest level of the consultancy market. They focus on strategic topics like corporate and organizational strategy, economic policy, government policy also, that is also important, and functional strategy. And for this reason, strategy consultants generally carry out work assigned by top managers, like CXOs, you mean CEO, CFO, Chief Financial Officer, Chief Operational Officer, and so on, Chief Technology Officer, and so on, directors and senior managers, and even sometimes mid management. Seeing that the nature of strategy consulting differs from the other more implementation and operational driven areas, strategy consultants generally have a different profile than their peers. Their focus lies more on quantitative and analytics skills, and their job description revolves more around giving advice than overseeing implementation. So it's more analytic job than a job in field when you communicate with people and make an implementation of some instrument. So you sit in the cabinet, you gain data from all the sources, you think hardly, so where the firm go, you use some frameworks. We will talk about frameworks also today, and we have talked about them on the lecture of the history of consulting. For example, BCG matrix, it's a strategic framework, and so on. You use them, and you think a lot, and you say, so the firm should go there on that market. The firm should have a certain number of employees to be profitable, and so on. So it's about marketing, how the company should go to the market for the several years even. So if we talk about strategy here in Russia, when we talk about strategy, we talk about 1 year, maximum 5 years. So because we have a variety of all the situations. And for example, in other countries in East, in Asia, for example, China, Japan, and Western world, their horizon of strategy 5, 10, 12 years. And you know, in Japan and South Korea, their strategy is for 100 years. Strategy of the state, of the government. So the horizon of the strategy is different in different countries. I think it's some kind of habits or so-called mental constructions of every type of people and country. But anyway, if we talk about strategy, it's a horizon, a minimum 1 year. So it's marketing, how to go to market. It's how many employees should we have? What structure should we have? Should we go to other markets in other countries or no? How we should communicate with government strategically, and so on. So I hope it's clear for strategy consultant. If it's clear, you can put down, for example, 1. Or if you have some questions, you can also go on with them. So the next is management consult. Management is about how. So the strategy is what and why should we do, and how should we do it from the helicopter view. And management, it's like it's like about engineering, and Taylor told also about the science of the scientific management. So you're like a scientist or like an engineer, and you think how particularly we could achieve our goal. So that's the point. And they are known as business management consultants, known as business consultants or organizational advisors. In Russia, we also taught organizational consultants. And they are focused on all sorts of organizational concerns, from strategy to a variety of elements within management. In their methodology, upheld by Kennedy as well as Consultancy UK, for example, management consulting is a collective term. By the way, Consultancy UK is a very useful site. You can use website. You can use it for your preparation. Also, there is a plenty of information there about consulting. So management consulting, a collective term used for all services that fall under strategy, operations consulting, HR consulting, and so on. So it's rather comprehensive world. For that reason, management consultants from the vast majority in the advisory branch, more than half of all advisors can be defined as a management consultant. So it's a very vast term. Let's go further, and the operations consultant. Operations consultants are consultants who help clients to improve the performance of their operations. Consultancy activities in this segment vary from advisory services to hands-on implementation support. So the implementation by the hands of the consultant. It may be IT implementations of some documents, business processes, and so on. And that can be in the sphere of sales, marketing, production, and etc. And also called secondary functions like finance, HR, supply chains. By the way, my opinion that finance is not a secondary function, but some people call it secondary. HR, supply chain, legal, and etc. Operation consultants form the largest segment within the advisory branch, and the majority of consultants are active within one of the many underlying operation areas. So I also can call me the operation consultant. Seen as the operations is often associated with the strategy and technology side of a company. Active operations consultants usually work side by side with experts from other domains. And you can see on the slide, so there is a plenty of operations: sales and change management, process reengineering, revenue management, profitability, efficiency, post-merger integration, and so on. There is a plenty of them. Yeah. And you can examine all of these spheres and upgrade your skills on them. There is a plenty of information in the internet, so you can go with self-education and be the specialist. And also that's the easy way. You can start working on projects as an independent consultant, where you can help someone. You can find the consultant and help him or her with some industry, in some spheres that when there is a large demand and there are no so hard demands on your skills. For example, sales consulting. So in sales consulting, you can help with making scripts for salesmen. You can help with implementation of this client relationship management systems. For example, in Russia, it's Bittrex 24, or worldwide, it's Salesforce. So if practically you have some kind of technical thinking, you can it can be it can take not much time for you to go on and find out how to work with it and help consultants to work with it. And it has high demand and a lot of specialists work on this market. Or, for example, HR consulting. One of the basic positions for the graduates is the HR manager who helps firms to find specialists, some kind of HR research. So when you find people, communicate with them. If you work for international company, if you have good English, you can have this work, and you can upgrade your skill in HR consulting. And there is plenty of ways we can talk about them. Also, I think we will on one of the seminars when we will talk about career. So we will have our time and have find out possibilities for you. And one of the points is that you should, in operation consultant, you should make a choice. So you should choose the sphere and dive in and upgrade your skills and competitions in this sphere. The more time you have upgrading your skills, the more qualified you will be, and the more professional help you can provide to your clients, and the more valuable you will be. So that's a good start. The operations consultant, good sphere for start. Also, financial advisory consultant. It demands much more skills, as I think, because I'm not very strong in financial, and practically demands some kind of mindset to be strong in financial. But if it's your story and you have capability, that's also very good and very huge sphere, financial advisor consultant. Practically the big four firms, EY, Deloitte, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and and the fourth firm, and the fourth film. Oh, my mind in the morning. They work in a financial area, so they help with finance, and practically every company needs to work with finance, and because it demands some professionalism, and it's not so easy for people to be good at finance. So there is always great demand for some consultants. If you have this, skill, practically in every country worldwide, in every period, even in crisis, my own opinion that you will have work if you have a good financial skills, because we operate with finance every day. Yeah, KPMG, the fourth firm. KPMG, they have big four audition companies. So you see here transaction services, corporate finance, risk management, accounting advisory, and so on. The next, human resource consultant. It is also the great sphere, but what we can tell about HR in crisis times, HR consultants are not so I think I shouldn't tell not so valuable. They are valuable, but the demand on them goes down in crisis times. That's the point about them. But when on the emerging market, the entrepreneurs need HR consultants, and also in stable times, also because they help to gain the power from the personal to the company, accumulate it. So the personal, the employees is the resource for the company, and the science of HR is to use this resource with maximum efficiency, and it's very interesting. So if you have type of your personality that is more like helping people, working with people, you like people, and if you know the DISC classification, it's the green type. So careful type, when you are like have friendship with people, you like to gain people together, you're very empathic, so it's for you. So for example, financial consulting and operation consulting is more for so-called the blue people in DISC classification. So like administrators, they are the logical, they goes from one to two, the next. If this, then that, they are rather logical. They have some like IT specialist mind also. And operation is for the logic. And it also have a lot of logic, a lot of schemes, but if you are careful to people, if you're very friendly, this sphere is for you. So you see there is a lot of travel management, even payroll management, onboarding, also about firing people and reducing personnel also here if you're not so friendly, but you can be friendly even in these situations. You can help people. If you saw the film about HR consultant who worked in reducing personnel, so George Clooney was the actor in the main role. I don't remember the name of the film. If you remember, you can write it down. When he went through the whole country, US particularly it was, and he fired people. And in this film was the situation when Skype appeared, and he began to fire people from using the Skype, not going himself through the whole country. With George Clooney. Yeah, very interesting film. If you haven't seen it, you could about an HR consultant, practically on firing people, but it's one of the points of one of the parts of this sphere. And it's very interesting. Also, I can call myself HR consultant because a lot of time I've worked in educational sphere, and it's also HR training management is a huge part of the HR consulting. How to train people, how to develop them, how to coach them. That's also here. Very interesting sphere. So, have you written down the name of this film? Do you remember it? Or no? You can put down in the chat, and if no one will put down, I'll find by myself. In Russia, it's called "I Want to Go to the Sky." Up in the air film. Yes, up in the air. Yeah, you can watch it. So let's go further. If you could hear me put something in chat, because I think that is it okay? Some kind of silence. I hope. I thought you would remember this film, so I hope there would be some comments in the chat. If you have put down something, and we'll. Oh, thank you, Rahmetullah. Thank you. We have people here. So yeah, and Anastasia, thank you too. 7. Okay, let's go. Next, IT consultant. And also please put down the time. I'm new to HSE. Put down the time when we should end our lecture. What time is it? 10:30 or 11. What time is it? Put down, please. At what time should we finish the lecture? The next, IT consultant. It's the urgent sphere now, so it's growing market of IT consultants. And if you are good at IT, go there, and everything will be okay with you for the next decades. Programming, security, support, server, database, host, and network. A lot of plenty of them. And also, we've talked about CRM systems, client relationship management. It also needs the IT competences. And for example, also ERP systems in big companies. Also, you need it. And practically in every sphere. In HR consulting, you should also have some IT competences and so on. Next is risk and compliance consultant. So it's about law, policies, rules, requirements, standards, regulations, governance, and so on. I think it's rather clear. You can also go here. Practically, you have education in jurisprudence. That's your possibility. Environmental consulting. It's rather new, but I've seen when I was preparing for this course, international consulting, I've seen the news about consulting companies, about whom they want for work. And I was rather surprised that there are a lot of possibilities in environmental consulting. So this topic is rather trendy. And it also grows up. So if you want to work in this field, it's also for so-called green people by DISC classification. So if you're rather empathic, if you like people and environment, or don't like people but like environment, that also could be like animals and so on. You can go in this sphere, and it's also the emerging sphere, and it will grow up, and it will be very demanding, so very valuable for consulting companies. So that's also a great sphere. Next is sales consulting. Is this is a story for the old times. So I think you understand. If you go to sales consulting, now I also can call myself a sales consultant. So you can go in this sphere and be successful. And it has in this sphere you can start. It's easy to start for people, for educators also. Marketing consultant. Also that sphere of marketing, there are a lot of possibilities, and practically internet marketing for several years is emerging market. And even if there are some situations like in Russia when we have a reducing of some social networks, that's not a problem. So marketing consultants would be in price for all times. There will be every channels, and for example, in Russia, you know that specialists for targeting VK, they have plenty of work now, for example. So that's also the very good sphere, because here you help company to gain money, to take money from clients. So marketing is companies don't reduce marketing, or they reduce marketing at the last turn because they need it. Practically, that parts of marketing that help to gain money. So social media marketing, digital marketing, and so on. Lead generation is the third sphere, lead generation, and so on. The next. image consulting. That I've seen on Consultancy UK. That practically not business to business, business to people, and also you can work in this sphere. It's also have a huge demand, and I think even in crisis times, it is very very useful, and people need this sphere. Social media consulting, also I've talked about it. Career consulting, and I think it is. I think people do not understand the real value of career consulting, a real value that career consultant could provide to the client nowadays, basically in Russia. And I think that the more time will go, the more people will realize how they can go up, how can they emerge, how can they boost with career consulting. There's this, the frameworks of career consulting. So also, if you like people, if you want to help them, it's a very good sphere. So we've ended this classification. If you have some questions, you can write them down. If you have also variants of consulting that you know or you want to work in, and I haven't talked about them in the presentation, you can put them down and also tell me, oh, Ruslan, there is one other type of consulting that you haven't mentioned, for example, or you can put down that, oh, I know the information about this type of consulting. It's rather interesting. Or you can go with your voice also and have some comments if you can, if you want. So, thank you, Alexander. 10 minutes before 11. Okay, we should. So we have practically 45 minutes. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Alexander and Rahmetullah. Okay, is it clear these types of consultants, whom you can be, in what sphere could you work? It's clear to you? Say, ok, it's clear. And by the way, as I've said, I'm new to HSE on lectures. So, is that okay for you, for students, to put down something in the chat on the lectures, to ask questions, to have some interactive during lectures? Or it's okay for you that lecture is when the lecturer tells all the information for the hour and a half, and everyone is silent in the chat, and that's the standard. So tell me, because I ask some questions and wait for your comments. Maybe it's not your culture. Maybe it's okay for you to be silent in chat and only listen. If it's so, please put it down. I'll understand. Okay. So the next part is for some kind of new information, maybe some fun information for you. Also, I've tried to make this course not very dry and analytic, but to add some examples and some live information for you, some cases and so on. So during the whole lectures, I will put down these blocks of information to make this course more fun, more alive. And that's the case about the offer. And from the company, I like Booz Allen, because practically they have a lot of information about their cases and they are rather interesting. So that was the case. on October 4th, 1957, Soviet news agency, as you heard maybe from your grandpas and grandmas. So the Soviet news agency announced the successful launch of a satellite, and the Soviets called it Sputnik. Sputnik became the international world after that. So in every country, people can say Sputnik, and it means that a satellite. Traveling and and the Russian meaning of this word is traveling companion. So a friend with whom you travel, or not a friend, practically a man or a woman. Sputnik was a triple shock to the United States. First losing the space race hurt mass pride. And since the US military had worked on satellite proposals as early as 1945, so from the end of World War II. And the second, Sputnik seemed to demonstrate the USSR's technical sophistication. Third, the power and precision of the rocketry. Quite to place Sputnik in orbit convinced many that the Soviets had the capacity to target US cities. So that was it was the evidence of the military possibility of the USSR to hit the US cities with its rockets. That was also the reason why that was so emotional for US, the run of the Sputnik by Soviet Union. In 1958, Congress created NASA, and Booz Allen has been deeply involved with the space agency as organizational and technical consultants ever since. So the Booz Allen took the role of organizational consultant, and we also above we've talked about this role, organizational consultant or operational consultant. Based on its experience in missile work, Booz Allen found itself in the thick of the American response to Sputnik. Legendary rocket scientist, hope you know this name, Wernher von Braun. It was the former German scientist who helped to create Faul 2, Faul 2, the legendary missile, legendary rocket. And then after the World War II, he went to US to work for US. The technical director he was the technical director of the Army Ballistic Missile Agency, had been trying to get a spacecraft into orbit. He had the technology, but not the budget. He called Booz Allen to ask for help justifying the budget, and the US missile program was soon on a fast track, and it was soon on a fast track in 1958. And Congress created NASA, and Booz Allen has been deeply involved with the space agency as an national consultant. In 1966, Booz Allen predicted that the orbiting astronomical observatory would last little more than a month, and NASA rejected the study and launched the satellite anyway, and it failed after a day in orbit. Since the new observatory satellites have been launched with ever-increasing lifespan, thanks in part to Booz Allen technical recommendations. Even in technical part, Booz Allen recommended advices for NASA. Booz Allen has involved in the theoretical strategy for the 1969 Apollo 11 moon launch, which put the first humans on the moon. Also, the firm contributed to the design of the Hubble Space Telescope, which launched in 1990. Today, Booz Allen is helping NASA create their roadmap for deep space exploration, paving the way to send humans as far as Mars. So that's the value of consulting for the space industry. So let's go further, and that's the topic about what value the consultants bring to their clients. And in today's dynamic and uncertain market conditions, our business should strive to get every competitive edge, increase revenues and sales, position the brand and to stand out even more among the competition. Finding and selecting the best consultant suited to your specific needs is half the battle in the successful completion of your project. Yeah, so when you buy consulting, you buy expertise. So that's a very important part of your victory. The biggest benefit consultants can provide to your company is temporary expertise on a per project basis, usually. So there is no further obligation to you as client, unless you like to use the services on a repeat basis. As we remember, the Bain Consulting Group went on the second path on a regular basis, advice for clients. The bulk of the consulting providers are very small boutiques, less than 10 employees. In the US, for example, they represent 87% of all consulting firms. So small consulting firms, less than 10 employees, boutique consulting. And the remaining 13% of consulting firms with over 10 employees, however, generate more than 19% of the total revenues in the industry. So that's also the point that you can work in a small consulting company, and maybe it will be easier for you to get in there, to communicate with people and have some possibilities. And also, you can work in a big consulting company. So, there are a lot of benefits for companies to working with consultants. Practically, we've talked about them on the previous lecture. And the high level of expertise, the contract can be extended as needed, and lower cost of consultants than full-time employees, and objective independent perspective for the issues. And what are the values? And basically, there are two values, in two dimensions, values are created. The first is technical value. And the technical value is brought through in-depth expertise. Most operational projects fall in this category where the consultants provide outside knowledge, help to diagnose problems and its solution, and assist in the implementation of the said solutions. So we talked about types of consultants, and all they bring technical value. And the next is not so obvious, it's political value. And the political value is more difficult to appreciate. But anyone that has been around for a bit knows the importance of companies' politics. In troubled times, especially, executives can look for support to legitimate a decision, enforce unpopular changes, or to be scapegoat. It can also take the shape of facilitating the meetings between the stakeholders or acting as a sounding board. So in crisis times, the consultants are also very valuable for companies. Not practically in crisis, but in crisis especially. And this is the political value, so they help in a political way inside the companies. So the interesting topic. We can talk about it in the seminars also. Next, how to measure this value. And all projects should bring value to a company, but how do you measure this? When a service is intangible like consulting, you cannot physically measure the results. The technical value is usually easier to measure since it often comes with tangible results, such as cost reduction or income increase. And the political value, however, is more complicated. How do you appreciate the impact of a culture and diversity project, process, and system optimization? Often fields have succeeded in measuring their intangible, such as client satisfaction or employee performance. So we've talked about metrics, and we can use them to collect data and measure the impact of the consultant. And we will talk about metrics later also. There is to date no standard in measuring the value created through consulting. It sounds particularly ironic when we know that consultants seemed the need precisely to measure performances. And also in a recently published Forbes Insight study on the topic of what value do consultants bring to clients, the results were pretty impressive. According to it, 92% of executives report product success. 62 agreed that the benefits of a project correspond to the desired outcome, and also 30% of clients stated that the benefits exceeded their expectations. But despite these favorable statistics, seemingly illustrating the success rate of consulting, only half of the 92% who indicated their consulting projects were successfully rehired the same consultants on a new project. This brings us to another important aspect of value created, the value perception. If clients are overall satisfied working with a particular consultancy, why would they take their business elsewhere? Consulting is very much a people's business, and building and maintaining relationship is a big part of its success. Attracting new clients and retaining old ones is never an easy task. It is hard to generalize all relationships, but survey mentioned above, it becomes clear that consultants need to put more effort into optimizing available opportunities with old clients and try to engage new ones holistically. Long-term business success requires wide strategizing, yes, my morning language, but is more rewarding to both clients and consultants than random one-time projects. So that's a trend also to go to the long-time projects, and you should have skills, relationship building, of networking building and relationship, and to be capable to work also in conflicts and come out from there with new results, and there is also plenty of skills here for you. So there is some information, but I think for the half an hour we should talk about benchmarking. And after our lecture, there will be seminars, and they will be linked to benchmarking. So yes, let's talk about it. And what is it? It's one of the most on some surveys, consultants put it on the first place as a consulting instrument. For example, I also have information wanted for you to tell 6 tools every business consultant should know, and the first place is benchmarking. And benchmarking is the process of comparing your company metrics to the metrics of your industry competitors, or to those of innovative companies outside the industry. So let's talk about it. It improves performance by identifying and applying best demonstrated practices to operations and sales. It compares the performance of their products or processes externally with those to competitors and best-in-class companies, and internally with other operations that perform similar activities in their own firms. So benchmarking is about comparing with competitors or inside your own company. The objective of benchmarking is to find the examples of superior performance and understand the processes and practices driving that performance. So, when we talk about the work of the consultants, there is a term like best practices. The consultants use it. So then they work with clients, what best practices said to me? Best practice of the industry, best practices of the other firms, best practices of the operational management, and so on. And consultants use them. So the benchmarkers is a process of gaining these best practices. Companies then improve their performance by tailoring and incorporating these best practices into their own operations. Not by imitating, but innovating. So we can compare it with methodics. For example, when you go to fitness, you have a fitness trainer, and he also has his best practices of how you should, what food to have, what exercises should you do, for example, to gain mass or to lose your mass, or to upgrade your strength or your flexibility, or so on. So the world have plenty of methodics, and every fitness trainer has his best practices, and even best practices from his experience that he can offer you for the work. And he is also a consultant. The trainer in fitness is also a consultant for his client, helping with implementing his best practices to achieve the goal of the client. Benchmarking is defined as the process of measuring products, services, and processes against those of organization known to be leaders in one or more aspects of their operations. Benchmarking provides necessary insights to help you understand how your organization compares with similar organizations, even if they are in different businesses or have a different group of customers. Benchmarking can also help organizations identify areas, systems, or processes for improvements. Either incremental improvements, continuous improvements, or dramatic business process reengineering, and so on. So benchmarking is a tool. It's a process. Benchmarking is a process of obtaining a measure benchmark. Simply stated, benchmarks are the what, and benchmarking is the how. But benchmarking is not a quick or simple process tool. Before undertaking a benchmarking opportunity, it is important to have a thorough understanding of the company's guidelines. Some companies have strict guidelines as to what information can be gathered and whom practitioners can contact to get information. Depending on the size of the company, practitioners may be surprised at what is readily available in-house. Benchmarking is not just a matter of making inquiries to other companies or turning and documenting another company's facilities or processes. When making use of benchmarking, a company should not limit the scope to its own industry, nor should benchmarking be a one-time event. So we can compare benchmarking and competitor research, as you see in this slide. So benchmarking focuses on best practices, and competitor research focuses on performance measures. Benchmarking strives for continuous improvement, and the competitor research is one type of framework that companies use, and they like to pay money for it, but it's a one-time advantage usually. And benchmarking should be internal function. It is partnered to share information, and competitor research sometimes like spying by someone. And benchmark needed to maintain a competitive edge, and competitive research is simply nice to have. And also benchmarking based on customer needs after examination of the best. So that's also a very important point. So it's about customer. So companies use benchmarking to improve their performance, to understand relative cost position, gain strategic advantage, and to increase the rate of organizational learning. And the relative benefits of benchmarking. So it's competitive, and it includes competitive analysis by identified areas you wish to improve on in your business, and benchmarking your existing performance against competitors. Your business can strive to enhance your execution tenfold, and using benchmarking this way has allowed businesses to gain strategic advantage. It also monitor performance of your own company, also the continuous improvement, as we said, planning and goal setting. So to have you should have information for your strategy, for planning, and for goal setting, and you can gain it from your own companies and competitors. Encourage ownership also. So when companies look at their processes and metrics, they need to ask hard questions to get all the answers they need. This includes taking to everyone in the business and understanding their roles. By asking these questions and gaining a better understanding of everyone's role, ownership for processes and performance is encouraged. So it's about responsibility of everyone on their position. This means that employees will take pride in their job and the work they do. This pride leads to better performance and higher quality and results. That's a very important point. Basically, it's from management consulting and HR consulting, the responsibility of employees. So when they are not only do what they told, do what instruction told to me, but when they take responsibility and to make decisions also themselves, and are oriented on the values of company, oriented on the strategy of company, and so on. And also, benchmarking helps you to understand your company's advantages. So also, you can make a benchmarking on graduates that go to consulting firms about their skills. That will be a good task. I think maybe I'll give it to you. So collecting this data, you will find out what should you upgrade in your skills, but also you will find out what is your advantage, what are your strength parts. People often forget to think about their strong skills, strong parts, strong sides of them. And it's very important. People like to think, oh, what should I upgrade? What is my weak side? What should I upgrade? But we can also focus on what we have in our strength to use it. So, as I told you about, for example, DISC classification, you can pass the test, DISC, or MBTI, Myers-Briggs, and you'll find out your strength side. And that will help you, for example, to make a choice in the type of consulting. For example, you are more a blue type in DISC, so it's better for you to work in organizational consulting, operational, particular consulting, IT consulting, business processes, juristic, compliance, and so on. For example, or you're a green one, and for you it's good HR consulting, environment, and so on. Or you're a yellow one, and it's good for you to work in marketing consulting, for example, sales consulting. Also, the yellow type will be good in these spheres. Or you are a red one, and the red one is rather universal, but it will good for you to work in also in operational consulting, practically work in implementation, because red is good at making tasks done, to implement, to make the work done. That's it's an important skill for every consultant, but practically if you're a red one, you can be good at implementation, and also in management role, also to be a manager on consultants, leader of the project also. Okay, that was a lyric, but disadvantages of benchmarking in business. Practically, we can gain too little information because there could be problem with it. Sometimes when comparing certain important aspects of different companies, information is missing. This can have major consequences for the position of a company, which financial losses and the worst case is therefore of the utmost importance that companies always have sufficient information about other companies. Yes, and it can have poor understanding of the situations and bench results. For example, when a company has reached a certain standard and wants to improve through creative ideas, then the organization should look at companies that are doing reasonably well. And if you are a leader, where should you watch? Analyze what the problems of these organizations are and see how the organizations to be managed can respond to this. And poor understanding of the situation. Although it is wise to keep an eye on the competition, it is more important to continue to focus on your own organization. So also, when you're on the copy, your contemporaries, it's not a very good strategy. So you can lose your focus on your own employees and their ideas. And there could be rather good ideas for your company to compete, to proceed. And monitoring competitors is of limited use, and sessions with the results of others will lead the company nowhere. That's why it is important that everyone understands the need of benchmarking before spying on another company. So that there are some disadvantages, and I should tell you about them. Yeah, thank you, Alexander. You put down agree. Practically, I haven't noticed on what topic you was agree. As you know, in an old funny story, there was a video when people, the operators of ships in the sea, and they are talking with the radio, and they heard, help us, we are sinking. And the operator is not good at English, and he asked, sinking? What are you thinking about? So my question is, what do you agree about? If you write it down, it will be cool if you also remember on that moment. I was agree with Rahmetullah. For me, that's a quest. Above we can see that Rahmetullah told for me both of them okay. And what was the both? Rahmetullah, remember, write down, please. So I appreciate communication in chat. We can do it, and I think that's okay, and also it can be rather interesting for us also during the tour. Because at seminar we will have communication certainly, but on particular tasks. But here we can communicate in the material about format of our lections. Okay, thank you, Rahmetullah. Yeah, if it is okay for you both, you can write down, you can comment, write down questions, and if I see, I also will open the chat more often, and also, what's here, answer you, write down something, communicate. I'm acting like people who, okay, like a foreigner acting and showing you with my gests. I think it's okay. So let's go. The primary classifications of benchmarking. So we can have internal benchmarking. It can be used when companies already has established and proven best practices, and they simply need to share them. So if you have some success like a company, you can have internal benchmarking. Moreover, it is very important for you because you should stable your best practices. You should remember them, renew them, and use them. And if you lose them, you will not be so sustainable as business. Yes, it can be cycle time from time to time to have this internal benchmarking. Process benchmarking. So when you look on your processes of your own companies and other companies and want to better understand how to make your processes best. Technical benchmarking, strategic benchmarking. So what strategic companies choose. Yeah, for example, in crisis times, what strategy companies use? Maybe they reduce their employees, or they go to the other markets, or they use the possibilities. For example, for IT companies now in Russia is the question whether to work with other countries, maybe go out of the country, or work here in Russia with Russian IT. Yes, and make the Russian IT decisions. And also, that's also the strategy. And performance benchmarking. Yes, it's also how to be more successful in market. And how benchmarking works. So first, select a product, service, or process to benchmark. Second, identifying the key performance metrics. So we talked about maybe it will be sales metrics, or rather there is a plenty of metrics. For example, one sec. For example, yeah, for example, financial performance. What metrics can be? Revenues, earnings, return on capital, cash flow, ROI, if you know it, return on investment, and so on. Customer value performance, for example, market share, customer satisfaction measures, customer loyalty. If you know NPS, when you go to bank, there is you have an SMS, and they tell you put from 1 to 5. How was your visit to the bank for you? Are you satisfied or not? So this is the measure. NPS, Net Promotion Score, for example. Internal business process performance, productivity rates, quality measures, timelines, innovation performance. So basically, I work on innovation projects nowadays, and there are a lot of metrics also. Percentage of revenue from new products, employee suggestions rate of improvement index, and so on. Also, employee performance, if you work in HR consulting, morale, knowledge turnover, use of the best demonstration practices, and so on. There are plenty of metrics you can use in business. I think we'll also talk about them. So let's go to that's also another topic, balanced scorecard. And now we will go to benchmarking. So second, identify the key performance metrics. 3, the third step, choose companies or internal areas to benchmark. The 4th, collect data on performance and practices. The 5th, analyze the data and identify opportunities for improvement. And 6th, adopt and implement the best practices, setting reasonable goals and ensuring company-wide acceptance. So that's the algorithm of benchmarking. In other words, plan, collect information, analyze data, action, so implement this information, and monitor, so see what the result of your implementation is. The example, benchmarking example, Carleton University. Carleton University's Department of Housing began a project to improve the process by which students apply for and are assigned housing. The project has 3 main goals. First, reduce residence vacancy rates to below 1%. Second, improve student satisfaction levels. And third, make the best possible use of the employee time and effort. The department chose benchmarking as the basis of the improvement project after realizing that other universities already had better processes. So when you realize that you have competitors that are better than you can use benchmarking. Carleton could learn from, and yes. There were a lot of competitors that Carleton could learn from and quickly implement without needing to re-engineer the process from scratch. So there are 2 processes. One is before, and the second is after. So the main process steps before and after benchmarking. So cross-functional team started by mapping the existing residence application process to establish a baseline, focusing attention on the process used by new first-year students. The project team then conducted focus groups with students living in residence, asking them to describe their expectations on the assignment service process, their perceptions of the services they actually received by any gaps between the two. The team also reviewed websites of housing offices at 24 international universities, followed by a telephone survey of 12 of these to find out more about their systems. So that was the service. The survey of other universities, how do they work with students? How do they work with housing of students? The team then conducted site visits to 4 universities seen as leaders in dealing with residence applications to learn about their current process and discuss the relative advantages and disadvantages of each one. The team presented this benchmarking report to management describing the best practices seen at other universities and making specific recommendations for adopting them to Carleton. So we can see here from the right side. So there is a process. Then a sign was in July and August, and they offered to remove the sign to March and April, and to reduce potential response times. And also, Carleton implemented many of the recommended changes and seen its benefits. So you can see that Carleton had 3% vacancy rate in September 2004, and in September 2005 have 0.5% or 1% vacancy rate. So practically all the vacancies, all the houses of the universities were full with students. And practically, yeah, another example. It's about one consultant, Bill Taylor, founder of Fast Company, yes, and his case. Bill tells us, 2 weeks ago, I was in Texas to work with the leadership group in Christus Health, a hospital healthcare company based in Dallas. They have 10,000 doctors, 30,000 employees, and major facilities in the 6 years state as well as in Mexico. In addition to being a world-class organization, it is a devotedly religious company. Its core mission is to extend the healing ministry of Jesus Christ. And what's a nice group like Christus doing with a game changer like me, Bill says. Well, Christus is also committed to innovation, specifically to applying ideas from outside the healthcare field in order to extend its leadership position within the field. Dr. Thomas Royer, the organization's CEO, put it this way. We can get caught in the bind of benchmarking against other hospitals. If we want to create a sense of urgency around innovation, we have to learn from industries that move much faster than this field. That refreshing attitude speaks to one of the big problems, the widespread phenomenon of benchmark competitors. The most creative CEOs I've met, Bill says to us, don't aspire to learn from the best in class in the industry, especially when the best in class aren't all that great. They aspire to learn from companies far outside their field as a way to shake things up and make real change. The leaders of Commerce Bank, based in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, have created one of the few passion brands in retail banking. The company, which had a market value of $1,000 million at the end of 1996, sold itself on the 2nd of October for $8.5 billion. That was not a bad decade. The first time, the bank's leadership team, they were adamant about their disdain for traditional benchmarking. They didn't evaluate the companies against Citigroup, Bank of America, or Pachovia. They looked to Starbucks, Target, and Best Buy. Every great company has reinvented the industry it is in, founder Vernon Hill told Bill. So we don't copy the stupid banks, we copy the great retailers. For example, commerce locations are open 70 to 80 hours a week, including on Saturday and Sunday, and heard of innovations before commerce arrived. It's the simplest idea in the world, Hill said, but to this day it's heretical in banking. The first question bankers ask me is, how do you staff on Sunday? I tell them, Walmart stays open, the malls stay open. How hard can it be? Actually, commerce does study its rivals, but only to discover the stuff that drives customers at other banks crazy. They're called competitor rules and practices, internal acronym crap. The key lesson: strategies and practices that are routine in one field can be revolutionary when they migrate to another field. Who are the most unlikely companies from which you learn? Who are you extending your field of vision beyond the competition in your field? So it's about the outside benchmark, outside your industry even, not only in your industry. Yeah, and this is, look, you can see Commerzbank looks like, and that is open 7 days, not as all the banks 5 days, like 7 days. Yeah, so that's all about. So today, what we talked about the variance of your career, variance of consultants, who you can be. We've talked about the value that consultants bring to their clients, and also we've started to examine frameworks of consulting, instruments of consulting, and one is benchmarking. We've started to talk about it. I think it is obvious what benchmarking is, so I think I don't need to give you more and more information, but it has a lot of stats, a lot of some details, but I think it's enough for you, and it's enough for our seminar to start to use. We will train in benchmarking also, so that will be in our seminar classes. So it's 10 before 11. You've told that it's time to stop the lecture by our schedule, and we will go to seminars. So what about the schedule? If you have some questions, you can put them down also. And 1 second, I'll see our schedule, and I'll tell you, or you will tell me about the seminars. Also, there is one thing that I should create channels for seminars, I suppose. So I'll ask for your help if you could on the seminar to make these channels. So according to the schedule. Yeah. At 11:10 we will have the first seminar. At 1 hour past mid-time we will have another. So there will be several groups, as 1, 2, 3, 4 groups. Yes. So the first group at 11, the second at 1 hour, the third at 12 before 3, and the fourth at 12 after 4. Yeah. If that's okay, if you have the same information, so we will go to our seminars. So the question, if it's okay about the schedule, and if you're informated, also put down 3 in chat, and the Andrew said, how can I find the people who have recently or just any time in the past opened to businesses at some Singapore? Andrew also. You've asked me, how can you find this information? How can you touch them and structure our communication with shared experience? So practically, Andrew, that's a good question, and also I think that colleges could help you, also people with whom you study. If you ask me, what would I do? I would look for some entrepreneur clubs so if you talk about Russian entrepreneurs, you can find in Russia clubs like Going International Entrepreneur Club, and so on. There was a conference by Synergy in Russia, Going International, and you can find that charts practically in Telegram. Yes, you can find people in chats in Telegram, in some entrepreneur clubs, and ask for this information. Go to Telegram, go online, find these clubs. Practically, we have Synergy Entrepreneur Club, we have Units by Mikhail Dashkiv, Units Club. We have Equium Club by Rybakov. We have Terra Club of Entrepreneurs in Russia. So find them and ask this question in these clubs. You can practically in Telegram find these charts.
All right. So what's the third one? Synergy, Units, and Equilibrium, or what? What was it?
Equium by Rybakov.
Okay, thank you.
If you have some more questions, you can use also Telegram chat. Or, by the way, our Telegram chat. We have the link on this chat in our channel, so join the Telegram chat, and also we can have a conversation there. And Svetlana, thank you. Can you please add people to team so they can join our meeting? So Svetlana, how should I do this? So I don't know who in which group. So how could I add people? Or maybe there is some information who particularly in which group is. How should I manage it? Can you help me here?
I don't really know, but I suggested a student from International Consulting. I don't know in which group on the seminar she will be, but she can't even join our lectures because she's not in a team. So I suggested her, and you can just add her to the team. Thank you.
So I have, so I could add her. Okay. And